In the age of processed convenience, food has evolved far beyond sustenance. Modern diets are now filled with products engineered not just to nourish, but to excite, often to excess. These so-called hyperpalatable foods are carefully designed combinations of sugar, fat, salt, and artificial flavorings that stimulate the brain's reward systems with a power far greater than natural foods ever could. And this manipulation comes at a cost. It can override normal appetite regulation and lead to patterns of compulsive, uncontrolled eating that resemble addiction in both behavior and brain activity. At the center of this phenomenon is dopamine, a neurotransmitter critical to the brain's reward system. Dopamine helps encode pleasure, motivation, and learning. When we eat something enjoyable, dopamine is released in areas like the nucleus accumbens, reinforcing the behavior and encouraging us to repeat it. This mechanism evolved to reward us for finding energy-rich food in a scarce environment. But in a modern context where food is abundant and engineered for maximum stimulation, this system is easily hijacked. Hyperpalatable foods such as chips, fast food, pastries, ice cream, and soft drinks generate an exaggerated dopamine response. The combination of high sugar, refined fat, and intense flavor far surpasses anything found in nature, producing a level of sensory stimulation the brain interprets as exceptionally valuable. With repeated exposure, these foods can condition the brain to crave them, not because of nutritional need, but because of the learned association between the stimulus and the pleasure it delivers. Over time, these repeated dopamine spikes can cause a kind of desensitization in the brain's reward circuitry. In other words, the same foods that once felt indulgent start to feel normal, requiring even larger quantities or more intense versions to achieve the same level of satisfaction. This is a hallmark of addiction-like behavior, tolerance. It's not just about liking the food, it's about needing it to feel baseline pleasure or to escape discomfort. Worse, these reward signals often override the body's natural satiety cues. Even when caloric needs have been met or exceeded, the drive to continue eating persists, driven not by hunger but by a feedback loop of anticipation and reward. This is why people often find themselves reaching for snacks shortly after a full meal or craving a sweet treat when under stress, bored, or emotionally depleted. Hyperpalatable foods aren't just tasty. They're behaviorally reinforcing, shaping habits and routines that are incredibly difficult to break. The link between hyperpalatable food and compulsive eating is further supported by brain imaging studies. Functional MRI scans show that in people who overconsume these foods, areas of the brain associated with craving, attention, and habit formation become hyperactive in response to food cues. This neural activation closely mirrors what is seen in substance use disorders. The brain becomes primed to respond to the sight, smell, or even thought of processed food with an automatic surge in desire, one that often bypasses conscious control. This understanding helps explain why willpower alone often fails in the face of modern food environments. It's not that people are weak, it's that their brains are being manipulated by foods designed to override control mechanisms. And because these foods are cheap, widely available, aggressively marketed, and socially normalized, they are virtually impossible to avoid without intentional effort. Yet the situation is not irreversible. The same plasticity that allows the brain to form addictive patterns can also be harnessed for recovery. When individuals reduce or eliminate hyperpalatable foods from their diets and replace them with whole, minimally processed alternatives, dopamine sensitivity can begin to normalize. Cravings diminish, satiety becomes more reliable, and natural foods start to taste satisfying again. It's not always easy, especially at first, but the brain can recalibrate and the drive toward compulsive eating can subside. Practical strategies to support this shift include focusing on nutrient-dense foods rich in fiber and protein, which promote fullness and reduce the urge to snack. Mindful eating practices, slowing down, eating without distractions, paying attention to hunger and satisfaction, can also help reestablish healthier reward associations. Importantly, these changes don't require perfection. Even small, consistent reductions in hyperpalatable food intake can weaken their grip on the brain over time. At a societal level, greater awareness is urgently needed. Many people do not realize that their eating behaviors are being shaped by products specifically designed to maximize consumption. Food addiction is still often dismissed or stigmatized, but neuroscience tells a different story, one in which highly processed food acts on the brain in ways that blur the line between choice and compulsion. Understanding how hyperpalatable foods manipulate reward pathways is not about demonizing pleasure or eliminating indulgence. It's about reclaiming control. By recognizing how our brains are being wired for overconsumption, we can make more deliberate choices, reshape our habits, and ultimately restore a healthier, more balanced relationship with food. The goal isn't to remove joy from eating, it's to rediscover it in a form that nourishes, satisfies, and supports well-being without hijacking the mind.